year ago today, Hurricane Idalia made landfall in the Big Bend region of north central Florida, and neighbors and business owners are still working to get back to some sense of normalcy. I'm Charlize Ramos, and over the next half hour, we will hear from those most impacted by last year's Category 3 storm and look ahead to this year's hurricane season. Hurricane Idalia began to form on August 23, 2023, making its way to the Caribbean. 3 days later, the storm rapidly intensified into a tropical storm and then a major hurricane. It made landfall just before 8 a.m. on August 30th near Keaton Beach. According to NOAA, this was the first major hurricane on record to hit the Big Bend area. The area suffered severe tree and structure damage from strong wind gusts and 7 to 12-foot storm surge in Levy, Dixie, and Taylor counties. In Cedar Key, the past year has been filled with cleaning up the significant damage left behind by Idalia. WFT's Tatiana White shares how local businesses are holding up since the disaster.
A year ago, Cedar Key was hit hard by Hurricane Idalia, experiencing lots of storm surge and high winds, causing damage and a long road to recovery, especially for many businesses. The small town of Cedar Key has several local businesses that attract many residents and customers. But after tragedy struck with Hurricane Idalia, it left many businesses destroyed, and it took months to recover the once thriving island. Places from restaurants to clam farms endured significant flooding.
Our farm actually also took damage as well. We took about 6.5 feet of water, causing a lot of our walls to actually break away, losing electrical outlets, water pumps, walk-in coolers, anything that was 6 feet and below.
Many of the business owners said they tried to prepare for Hurricane Idalia, but with the 10-foot storm surge, they knew it was out of their control.
We took almost everything we could out of here. Packed up, taped up the doors, and did all these things, and bagged up things, but it was too big. Well, and I think we all learned from that one.
Timothy says there was millions of dollars worth of damage to businesses around Cedar Key, especially on Dock Street, which hosts some of Cedar Key's most popular businesses. But with the help of loans, insurance, and community members, many businesses were able to get back on their feet within a few months.
Dock Street and downtown especially, of course there was two buildings that were completely destroyed. One of them still condemned on Dock Street right now. The hotels across from there, they're currently rebuilding and bringing it back to life. And then, of course, even in the downtown area, we had shops that were completely destroyed, that the community came together and was able to work hand in hand.
Now, a year later, many businesses like Scott's Tiki Bar are up and running under normal operations. Scott says his business was able to keep going shortly after the hurricane, despite the damage, because they opened parts of the business one at a time.
So we came back in business like a little bit at a time because we have our food trucks, and that was right back. And then the bar, 9 days later, we got that open, the motel. So it was so gradual.
Some businesses have not been so lucky, especially many clam farmers.
That, like in the local area, our aquaculture industry, the clam farming, it has still taken a hit because a lot of the people are actually still pulling dead crop that was affected by the hurricane. When the hurricane came through, some people had crop that was only 2 months old that right now is getting to the age that they would actually be getting ready to harvest it to sell to their customers, and they're going to pull it, and their bags are completely dead. And so they don't have any product to sell. They were losing customer share, market share.
Despite the hardships businesses faced during Hurricane Idalia, Timothy and Scott share the same sentiment, that if it weren't for the community lending a helping hand, they would not have been able to get back open as fast as they did.
Everybody was able to step in and bring this community back and it was just a blessing in disguise to see the actual bond and the unity that came from this little island of Cedar Key.
And the cleanup was impressive. Like I said, all the people that came and helped, the trucks that came in here and got rid of all the garbage. It changed the way I feel about this island. I mean, I loved it, but I love it that much more.
As the storm clouds clear, many businesses remain up and running here in Cedar Key, and they're preparing for this year's hurricane season. Although Hurricane Idalia caused a lot of damage here last year, with the support and resilience of community, Cedar Key stands strong. In Cedar Key, Tatiana White, WUFT News.
Days after the storm passed through, President Biden toured the aftermath of the storm. Air Force One landed at Gainesville Regional Airport to assess the damage. President Biden took an aerial tour of the devastation left behind by the storm. He went on a walking tour of Live Oak and gave remarks about recovery efforts. The president focused his message on how the federal government can help Floridians recuperate.
I'm here today to deliver a clear message to the people of Florida and throughout the Southeast. As I told your governor, if there's anything your state needs, I'm ready to mobilize that support. Anything they need related to these storms. Your nation has your back, and we'll be with you until the job is done.
One day after the storm moved through, President Biden declared a major disaster for the area and approved federal aid to help with the recovery efforts. Several counties in our area who did not see major impacts from Idalia took note of Big Bend's recovery efforts. WFT's Sarah Howard continues our coverage with more on Gainesville leaders who learned from Idalia's impacts.
It's an emotional time for those still recovering from Hurricane Idalia. The storm struck Florida's Big Bend region last year. The area continues to rebuild and recover from the widespread damage caused by high winds, flooding, and storm surge. While the Big Bend faces significant recovery challenges, Gainesville was spared from the worst of the storm's effects. As the peak of hurricane season approaches, Public Information Officer Rosanna Passaniti says the city is taking steps to make sure community members are prepared.
If their power goes out for a day or two or three, they've got canned goods, they've got water, they've got everything that they need if their internet goes down as well. Do they have their homeowners insurance policy printed out so that if they have damage, they've got the phone number right there of their agent, they can get on the phone, they can, see what their limits are.
Rosanna Passaniti says that as we look ahead, being prepared is more important than ever. She says hurricane preparedness is all about staying ahead of the game and being ready for whatever could come next.
The American Red Cross played a crucial role in the recovery efforts, providing immediate relief and long-term support. Red Cross CEO Christian Smith says Idalia taught the organization several important lessons.
We're recognizing that the preparedness, how important that is to make sure people are prepared before the storms. It's also making sure that we have those resources in an accessible place. And then I think the thing that's probably the one that we're seeing the most of is as we look at the volunteer base, as we look at those communities, the way we've strengthened our relationships with our emergency management and letting those counties know, here's what we can do, this is how we can respond.
She urges those who can to volunteer and lend a hand. Sarah Howard, WUFT News.
Hurricane Idalia washed out hundreds of sea turtle nests along Florida's Gulf Coast. More than 200 miles south of Idalia's path on Sanibel and Captiva Islands, researchers found more than 120 nests and thousands of eggs were destroyed. Justin Perrell researches and tracks nesting numbers and says there's no intervention his team can provide.
There's no additional protection that we can do.
When heavy winds and rains lash beaches, the fragile nests can be washed out. Researchers say that drowns the developing embryos. Sea turtle nesting season lasts from March through October, coinciding with the peak of hurricane season.
We do monitor everything, and every year we do attribute some losses to hurricanes in terms of the sea turtle nest.
But researchers say they aren't the only ones who plan for the effects of hurricanes. Nesting mother turtles exhibit behaviors that protect their eggs from the dangers of hurricanes.
By following the movements of turtles with tracking devices on them, researchers have found that they don't always put all their eggs in one basket. They've found some turtles will travel hundreds of miles up the coast of Florida to nest on multiple beaches. They say that could be a beneficial strategy for them because if one nest is washed out on a beach, they may have other nests that can successfully hatch.
Sea turtles that nest later in the season, when hurricanes are more likely to occur, tend to nest higher up on the beach. Researchers say this can protect them from the effects of hurricanes, even if the beach is hit. This year, sea turtle researchers have been prepared for a more active than normal hurricane season. But they know the wildlife's natural instincts will play a vital role in protecting many of the endangered species' nests. Natasha Holt, WUFT News.
Leaders work year-round to help Floridians be as prepared as possible for the hurricane season. But as WFT's Kate Sowers reports, being prepared doesn't always mean you, your home, or your business will make it out of the hurricane's path unscathed.
After Category 3 Hurricane Idalia hit Florida on August 30th, NOAA reported 12 fatalities and an estimated $3.6 billion in damage. During a hurricane, destruction isn't always preventable. However, being prepared can go a long way in staying safe. Alachua County Communications Director Mark Sexton says hurricane preparedness is all about knowing what resources will get you through the storm.
We've got multiple sites on Alachua County Ready. That's a great website that have links to very detailed preparations, hurricane kits.
Sexton says your hurricane kit should include canned foods, batteries, and a portable radio. But hurricane preparedness isn't just about stocking up on canned goods. For first responders, being prepared for a hurricane means making sure others are staying safe as well. High Springs Fire Department Public Information Officer Kevin Mangan says that by learning from past hurricanes like last year's Idalia, the fire department is better prepared for the future.
It goes back to making sure that, we review everything that we did. Was there a particular call that might have been challenging? For what reason was it challenging?
While danger is most prevalent during the storm, Mangan says it can leave behind deadly hazards.
If you come across a downed power line, always assume that the power line is live and dial 911.
Mangan also emphasizes the importance of communication during a hurricane, something Mark Sexton reinforced.
Through our social media site, our Facebook site, for example, has over 100,000 followers. We also have X, Nextdoor, and Instagram. We have our main county webpage. We have the Alachua County Ready page.
Sexton says it's important to pay close attention to these sites and to look out for announcements from the county in the event of a disaster. Alachua County residents will receive hurricane updates as well as information on emergency shelters and sandbag services. Cade Sowers, WUFT News.
Next, raising rates after natural disasters. Homeowners may be forced to pay more than 10% increase to help keep their homes insured. We'll explain after the break. Many Florida homeowners are worried that a hurricane tax could be looming over the state 1 year after Idalia and now that we're in peak hurricane season. Reporter Dave Elias has more on why Florida citizens may have to pick up the tab for private insurance companies.
It's the back of every Floridian's mind, of the rates going up for sure.
Governor Ron DeSantis warned me back in March that Citizens simply doesn't have enough money to cover its more than 1.3 million policies.
And I think, as most people know, Citizens has not been solvent. If you did have a major hurricane hit with a lot of Citizens property holders, it would not have enough to pay out.
Well, currently, Citizens has about $4.8 billion in the bank. Idalia claims are expected to take a big chunk of it, since Citizens is the largest insurer in the Big Bend area where the storm made landfall.
The analysis prior to the storm showed Citizens had more than 190,000 policies in the counties that would receive direct impacts from Idalia. If it was a worst case scenario, it would be a $72 billion loss for Citizens. That's substantial.
And while the loss isn't that great, the only way the state-run company could pay out is to charge all of us a hurricane tax.
So that's the big issue, is we want fewer and fewer people to be in Citizens because of the problem it poses, not just for Citizens policyholders, but for Floridians everywhere.
That insurance tax could also be placed on car and renter's insurance.
There's that old adage, you get what you pay for, right? So, I'd rather pay a little more, even if there's a hurricane tax, than moving back to Ohio.
It last happened in 2004 when 10 hurricanes hit the state, and Florida residents were stuck paying off Citizens' $1.7 billion tab through 2015.
This hurricane season is starting to pick up with two systems currently brewing in the tropics, and one tropical storm has already hit our area earlier this summer. After the break, we'll dive into the damage Tropical Storm Debbie left behind and look at the outlook for the rest of the hurricane season. We'll be right back. Welcome back. Nearly 1 year after Hurricane Idalia made landfall in the Big Bend area, another storm system, Hurricane Debbie, moved through. Hurricane Debbie made landfall about 7 a.m. Monday, August 5th near Steinhatchee with maximum sustained winds of 80 miles per hour. This brought the rural Big Bend region its second hurricane in less than a year. Debbie then slowed down and turned northeast, meandering across North Florida and southeast Georgia. Governor Ron DeSantis said the storm produced catastrophic flooding in many areas. At the height of the storm, some 150,000 customers were left without power. Now that we're halfway through this year's hurricane season and heading into the most active part of the year, NOAA has revised its hurricane outlook. The number of expected named storms, according to NOAA, is between 17 and 24. 8 to 13 could become hurricanes, with 4 to 7 predicted to become major hurricanes. So far, there have been 2 named hurricanes and 2 tropical storms this season. Hurricane season lasts until November 30th. You can count on WFT TV and WFT.org to be there for North Central Florida if and when another storm hits our area. Until then, you can find us daily on WFT.org on First at 5 and WFT Midday. Have a good night.